The 7th stop in 12 weeks for the Motul FIM Superbike World Championship. 2 months on from a memorable Portuguese round, we're back, but this time some 300 kilometres northwest of Portimao for the Pirelli Estoril round. Superbike's third visit to this venue and its first since 1993. It's the final weekend of a shortened 2020 campaign, the climax to a busy spell and a day on which we may well be crowning a champion. The Estoril circuit is the only remaining venue from World Superbike's inaugural 1988 World Championship on the 2020 calendar. And although this afternoon's race 1 will be the first WorldSBK action around this 4.182 kilometre circuit for a generation, 13 stagings of the Portuguese MotoGP and 4 CEV rounds have taken place here since. The shortest circuit on the calendar, 13 corners. The first of our overtaking hotspots is at turn 1 at the end of a 986-metre start-finish straight, the second longest on the calendar. Watch out for the Parabolica Interior, only the second left-hander of the lap at turn 6. And turn 9, the slowest corner on the circuit. The last race winner here was Carl Fogarty. The man who replaced him as the sport's all-time record holder, Jonathan Rea, will be targeting title number 6 this afternoon. Exactly 27 years since the Saturday of the last Estoril round that provided the 1993 championship decider. We're building up to another this afternoon. Jonathan Rea with his second opportunity to seal the 2020 crown ahead of Scott Redding. Steve English alongside me, 3 races to score 3 points. Surely, barring injury, Rea will get his 6th title over the line. He's going to want to do it in style. That's going to be a tough task given the proceedings of the Superpole session earlier on today.
Yeah, the search for 6 is going to start from the 5th row of the grid for Jonathan Rea. The good thing for him is Scott Redding starting right at the back. Both of the title contenders crashed during the Superpole session. And the biggest issue for Scott Redding is that he's going to have to come from 22nd on the grid in this race, but also tomorrow's Superpole race, and he needs to win both of them to have any chance of maintaining a championship challenge.
The good news for Scott Redding is that he has been the form man, certainly through Friday practice and even free practice 3 this morning. Redding has been the man to beat. The problem is he's got to get through a really stacked field of competitors to try and get his way to the front, because nothing less than a victory in this race will do.
Yeah, he needs to win to have any chance. Jonathan Rea just needs to pick up some points. And certainly for Scott Redding, he knows the task that's going to be in front of him is going to be massive, but he needs to make plenty of quick progress in the early laps, get himself up into the midfield battle and try and just work his way through to the front of the field. The biggest challenge he's going to have is it's going to be tricky to make moves around this Estoril circuit. There's a few overtaking places. Down in towards turn 1 is an easy overtaking opportunity. Other than that, you're actually going to have to force a move. You're going to have to barge down the inside, and you're going to need someone that's willing to get out of your way.
I suspect that Jonathan Rea will be feeling pretty confident about fighting his way through, to be perfectly honest, given how he always performed in the reverse grid races, of course, coming through from 9th position on the start line with impressive regularity, and we often saw him cut through 8 riders just in 1 lap alone. So Jonathan Rea knows that he can, in fairly straightforward fashion, you fancy, finish inside the top 13 positions, as long as he doesn't get bashed out of the way on his way through. The one thing that Jonathan Rea has got to assure here is that he gets a race finish on the board.
You can see for Jonathan there, keeping his family close, even though obviously with the regulations we have at the moment, they're watching from back home in Northern Ireland. But certainly he's not going to take anything for granted after what happened in the Superpole session. He's going to know that it's all about just getting the job done right now. Rea and Redding weren't the only riders to crash during that session. Sylvain Barrier has been ruled out of action after taking a pretty hefty knock in his crash at the last corner. This was Jonathan Rea's crash on that left-hand side of the tyre, a little bit cold after not being used for quite a long time from pretty much the end of the lap all the way through to this point. So very easy to have a crash like that. It caught Rea out, and he didn't get back out again during the session. So certainly for Jonathan Rea, he's going to have his work cut out for himself to get to the front, but not to get the championship done.
The whole of Northern Ireland with a deep intake of breath after that incident, I imagine, because can you imagine if Jonathan Rea hadn't been fit enough to take his place in the 3 races this weekend? It would give a real opportunity to Scott Redding. Now, Redding has got to fight his way through from the very back after this crash on his first flying lap of Superpole this morning.
Doesn't get for easy viewing when you see that kind of a crash for a rider, and certainly whenever it's a title contender like Redding that needs a perfect weekend, a crash like that always nasty for a rider. It really did knock the wind out of Scott Redding. Took a moment for him to get back on his feet. He got back to the pits. The team were able to get the bike repaired during the session, so he was able to get 1 lap in at the end just to basically make sure that the bike was in working order, gets back to the pits. So at least it's not going to be a brand new bike that he goes out on at the start of this race, but certainly for Redding, he'll know that he's got an uphill task.
Redding's got his body out. He's certainly a warrior, is Scott Redding. We saw him take the fight to Rea in race 2 in Manicourt to keep the championship fight alive here in Estoril. He's certainly not going to go down without another fight.
Yeah, he's going to make sure he goes down swinging, but it's going to be tough for him from that 8th row of the grid. But he's had the pace all the way through the weekend, like you said earlier on, Alex.
Michael van der Mark will line up from the 2nd row. We had generally seen Yamahas running towards the front of the field. We had a pack of blue bikes in free practice 1 here yesterday, all inside the top 9 positions. On this occasion, they've been broken up by the Ducatis of the likes of Davies and Rinaldi, but we've still got 3 Yamaha runners in the front 2 rows of the grid. That's a strong launch pad for the first 2 races of 3 this weekend. Yeah,
the Yamahas look good around this track, and van der Mark from the 2nd row of the grid, he's never been the best of qualifiers, but he's going to be in there in the 2nd row. Gives him a good chance. He looked like, as we came into the pit box, a little bit of a special fairing this weekend for van der Mark as well. A few extra flashes of orange for his last race with the team.
Final race on board that Pata Yamaha before he moves to BMW, and it's going to be a very quick movement to BMW as well.
Yeah, within 48 hours he's going to be out there on the BMW as well. He's testing here on Monday. One of the many riders going to get a first opportunity on a new bike on Monday here in Estoril. The likes of Michael Ruben Rinaldi will move across to the Aruba team, and interestingly we're going to see Andrea Locatelli out in the Superbike for the first time.
Now we're also going to see Michael Ruben Rinaldi replacing Chaz Davies with the Aruba IT Ducati squad for 2021. Will this be Chaz Davies' last weekend potentially in WorldSBK, because he's waiting for a ride at the moment for next season, having been left on the sidelines rather at the last minute. He's looking for a big weekend here once again to underline his credentials. He's been in great form of late.
Yeah, and for Davis, he's been able to show that he still very much can be a front runner in this class. From Aragon onwards, the 2 rounds in Aragon, Catalunya, Magny-Cours, he's been able to have a string of really good results. He's still that talent, still that potential to be right at the front of the field. He just needs the bike to be right. When that bike works, he's always been fast with it. It's whenever it's not quite in that right operating window that he's struggled. And for Chaz Davis, he's just been a bit unlucky with the way that the rider market is falling into place.
Chaz Davies currently 3rd in the World Championship and defending the bronze medal in the latter stages of the season, with the likes of Michael van der Mark right on his tail. A little bit of a gap then to Alex Lowe's and Toprak Razgatlioglu, who are still in mathematical contention. Of course, we've got 3 races in WorldSBK this weekend. Razgatlioglu comfortably fastest in Tissot Superpole earlier on today, was 7/10 of a second, more than 7/10 of a second rather, up on Leon Haslam, who was 2nd fastest. Toprak, if he can come out with a series of podium finishes, we know he's capable of it from the opening couple of rounds of this campaign, he could still challenge Davies for bronze.
Yeah, he's going to need an awful lot of luck to come into play, but we've seen already this weekend that the track is tricky and it can catch out riders, so certainly this race is going to be really important to see if Toprak still has any chance of finishing 3rd. It's a big task ahead of him. It's probably unlikely. His real target has to be just to try and make sure he's able to beat his teammate van der Mark this weekend and try and stay in front of him in the championship. As it stands right now, van der Mark 4th in the championship. He's got a decent advantage as well in hand over his teammate. He's got 28 points, so it's going to be really difficult for Toprak, but he's starting from pole position, gives himself a good chance.
Well, we see another of the riders who's been in contention in the battle for bronze. He's at the back of the group now, Michael Ruben Rinaldi in 7th position. Plenty of gains over the course of 2 weekends in Motorland Aragon for Michael Ruben Rinaldi, as we see him getting as how low can you go in free practice 3.
Yeah, unfortunately for Rinaldi, it was how slow could he go at times during free practice. He was really struggling to get the most out of that Ducati. But then when push came to shove during the Superpole session, he was able to hook it up, qualify in the 2nd row of the grid. And whenever it's a brand new circuit like this for everyone, sometimes it can just take a little bit longer to get yourself up to speed, depending on the bike, depending on the rider. And certainly Rinaldi on the 2nd row of the grid, it shows that they've been able to make that progress, and you're not going to rule them out of contention in the course of this race. We'll learn an awful lot about what to expect this weekend during the course of race 1, because this will be the first time where we really see everyone out there trying to make sure they're able to put together 21 laps. We don't have an awful lot of data here from this weekend. We don't have a lot of information, so it really is a step into the unknown for all these riders.
As we've said previously, there are riders on the grid who've raced here in MotoGP, most notably Alvaro Bautista's had a lot of experience around this circuit, but that experience doesn't necessarily translate with superbike machinery, and of course years on from even MotoGP's last visit here to Estoril, so not easy for for riders to make their first appearances. They've had the advantage of 3 free practice sessions and a Super Pole session, and now it's game time. Race 1 coming up.
Yeah, we saw Jonathan Rea leaving the pits there and just being a little bit slow to get himself onto the track. So whether or not there was a bit of a delay down at the end of pit lane for the green light to come on, but for Jonathan Rea able to head out there, and this will be a step for him where he'll see whether or not the work that was done to repair that bike has gone all right. That's where Scott Redding has an advantage, because he at least able to get out to do an out lap and an in lap at the end of the Super Pole session just to make sure everything was okay. Whereas Jonathan Rea, the first time that he's going to ride that bike in anger after his crash in the Super Pole session, is going to be on the run down in towards turn 1.
How much is that early incident, both for Jonathan Rea and actually for Scott Redding, both of the incidents in the first 6 minutes of that Super Pole session, going to affect them not only in terms of the preparation from a mechanical side, but also the psychological aspect ahead of this race?
Well, it's going to be making things tougher and tougher for them. Momentum works both ways in racing, and sometimes you need to have a very short memory to forget about mistakes. You need to have a very long memory to remember the good times. So for someone like Alvaro Bautista, he has to be thinking an awful lot about 125s and 250s, winning races here in Estoril, feeling good on different bikes in the Grand Prix classes. And then for someone like Scott Redding, who's obviously got Grand Prix experience here as well, he needs to just be able to forget about his crash in the Super Pole session and then look forward to what he's been able to do all the way through the weekend. So very important just to be able to take the right mindset after you've had a pretty tough session.
We mentioned Leon Haslam qualifying up in second position on the grid. You were just talking about Alvaro Bautista there. Haslam's single lap, that really came out of nowhere because the Hondas have not been right at the sharp end throughout this weekend. It's generally been a lot of Yamahas up there and also the Ducatis, and then Jonathan Rea, as we see Rea, it looks as though he's going to take his way into the pit lane again. He has got the entire 5 minutes, of course, to come through, and he can complete another lap, a reconnaissance lap of the circuit with 2.5 minutes until pit lane closes.
And you can see Parariba there just telling his rider, work your way through the pit lane, get yourself onto the grid. But they're going to do 2 siding laps there just to get a little bit more time on the bike there for Jonathan Rea before we get to the start of the race. Good approach, smart from Kawasaki to do that, smart from Jonathan Rea to do that, and we'll see how it helps him whenever we get underway in round about 20 minutes time.
Yes, I rather suspected that we'd see Rea coming through the pit lane just to give himself an extra sighting lap before he makes his way round to the grid. So Jonathan Rea, who will be lining up from 15th position here, makes his way back out onto the circuit. The rest of the field all making their way round. As I said, just a couple of minutes until pit lane closes. Could be in for some surprise results here, because we've got several riders in the mix, and we've also got several riders further down the order than perhaps you might have expected. The likes of Jonas Folger and Loris Baz lining up from row 4, and they've been among the top 10 throughout this weekend, aside from that Super Pole session earlier on today.
Yeah, Baz we'll see on the number 76 Tenkate Yamaha, had a crash in yesterday's free practice 2 session, had a crash during the Super Pole session as well. He lines up on the 4th row of the grid. Folger on the number 94 Yamaha, he's in as a wild card this weekend, and he just couldn't get the most out of that qualifying tyre. Very different compared to using a race tyre, and seemed to catch him out a little bit, but he's still on the 4th row of the grid. He's a decent pace all the way through the weekend. The Yamaha works great around this track, so keep an eye out for both of those riders.
And how about Chaz Davies? He was the fastest man in the early stages of Super Pole on a race tyre.
Yeah, the one thing about Estoril that we've seen so far this weekend is when riders put on fresh tyres, or when they went to a softer compound, they didn't necessarily go faster yesterday in the free practice 2 session. And speaking to a few riders, they were a little bit concerned about why that was the case. So maybe whenever the Q tyre went in, some riders just weren't quite able to get it to switch on just perfectly during the course of their laps.
Leon Haslam there will be lining up second on the grid. The riders coming into position. We're just half a minute now away from pit lane closing, and Jonathan Rea will take up his position all the way down in 15th. Remember, he was just 1 place away from securing his 6th world title last time out in France. Only the 4th race this season that he's missed out on the podium places. So Jonathan Rea hoping to get back on the podium, because I'm sure that he'd much rather complete the championship job up in the top 3 places here today than just scrambling over the line in 13th.
Yeah, he'll want to be able to finish it off in a bit of style, but he'll also just want to get it finished off, and that's going to be the real task now for the number 1 Kawasaki, because this morning's Super Pole session would have been a real wake-up call for him about how quickly things can go wrong in racing, and certainly Obviously, with Scott Redding at the back of the field, there's a little bit more of a comfort zone there. But Jonathan Rea is not going to be thinking about Scott Redding. He's going to be thinking about his own job to do.
Yes, I said in Super Pole this morning that they'll have unpacked Jonathan Rea from bubble wrap. Unfortunately for him, he's immediately gone down in that Super Pole session. So hopefully both of our championship heavyweights are fit as a fiddle ahead of race 1 here this afternoon. There were certainly no signs of any injuries after those crashes. Both riders were swiftly back up to their feet. Scott Redding taking a moment of contemplation off the circuit before he got back up and walked away, admittedly somewhat gingerly. So it'll be Rea starting from P15. It'll be Scott Redding all the way down in 22nd position. I fancy that the first 5 or 6 riders for Scott Redding should be fairly straightforward. The problem for him is that Jonathan Rea is going to be cutting his way through the field like a knife through butter as well. Let's take a look at the grid then, starting with our front row. It's Toprak Razgatlioglu on pole with Leon Haslam and Garrett Gerloff alongside him. Toprak a little off form in Manicourt. We haven't really seen the best of him since our last visit to Portugal back in August. 6 podium finishes in the first 3 rounds and none since.
Yeah, for Toprak, speaking yesterday, he said that he really wanted to be able to get to the end of this season, just reset, move on to next year. He said that they've spent a lot of time trying to change the bike, trying to find solutions. This weekend, they haven't really made too many changes to the bike. He's been able to just settle in, try and get faster and faster as the weekend's gone on. It worked in the Super Pole session. Let's see what he can do in the race.
Here is Jonathan Rea then starting all the way back down the order in 15th position. So that's the margin he's got to recover. One of the shortest lap, well, it is the shortest lap on the calendar, but he's got 21 of them to try and get his way through. And 2 positions, of course, as a bare minimum to secure that world title.
Yeah, for Rea, that's got to be the first thing to do in this race. Just try and get that title finished off. Just try and take that pressure away and then be able to enjoy tomorrow's races.
Of course, the one thing that Jonathan Rea has got to be careful of is not to end up getting wiped out in someone else's incident as he tries to work his way through the field. He's got to be clean for the entire race distance and ensure that he finishes inside those points-paying positions, because the man with the real hard graft to do here is Scott Redding. 21 riders in front of him, 21 laps to try and pass them all.
Yeah, and for Scott Redding, it's a big task. We know that coming into this weekend, he faced a very difficult task anyway, just trying to overhaul that gap to Jonathan Rea. He needs 3 wins. He's going to have to do 2 of them from the very back of the field.
FIM President Jorge Villegas is present and surveying all of the action in front of him this weekend. A World Championship decider and the man of honour as far as proceedings are concerned here today. And I'm sure he'll enjoy what he's been seeing, because it has been an entertaining day so far. We've had a few great Super Pole sessions, and I suspect that we're in for a classic here in race 1 in WorldSBK, with the top 2 in the championship making their way through the order from further down the grid. So it's Toprak Razgatlioglu then who will start from pole position. That's his first pole of his career, and bearing in mind that this is going to be his 81st WorldSBK start, that's quite some stat. Toprak has never been the best of qualifiers.
Yeah, he's always struggled in the Super Pole sessions to get the most out of that Q tyre, but certainly for Toprak, it's a nice milestone to have been able to do, and now he wants to be able to give himself a chance of, in this race, really fighting it out for another race victory. That's what the goal has to be for Toprak. We heard down in Park Fermé's crew chief Phil Marin saying, good job, but the job's only half done.
Yes, absolutely. He starts from pole position. Alongside him here, Leon Haslam. The veteran will go 5th in the all-time record books for race starts with his 276th here. He can now look forward to reaching 300 in 2021. His contract with HRC extended into a second campaign.
Yeah, and certainly for Haslam, with that contract in his back pocket, he's now got the opportunity to ride a little bit freer, a little bit more relaxed, and just get the most from himself for this weekend in Estoril.
Completing the front row of the grid, Garrett Gerloff. This will be the Texans' 20th race start, and I think you'd have to consider the last 19 as a success. 27 points clear of his teammate, a first podium on the board, and a 2021 contract already in his pocket.
Yeah, Gerloff's been able to do a really good job. He's shown that he belongs in WorldSBK. The last 3 rounds, he's shown that he belongs at the front as well. So certainly another opportunity for him to try and fight it out for a podium.
Jazz Davies, 6 consecutive top 5 finishes. That's the most he's managed on board the V4R, defending 3rd in the world. But at the moment, without a ride for 2021, the Welshman will end his relationship with Ducati after 7 seasons. Looking then to end on a high, and I think we've got Anthony Nelson in place to catch up with the Welshman.
Thanks, Alex. And Chaz, we've seen you growing progressively here through Friday and Saturday in Estoril. It's your best qualifying performance of the season. How are you going to approach this, considering that it's a new track for just about everybody?
Yeah, yesterday just built up the confidence with the track a little bit. I knew last night that I would have to sleep on it, and just try and let some things digest overnight, and then it feels better sort of straight away this morning, and then the bike's also improved a bit as well. So just to approach the race like any other, really. I think we've all got enough laps under our belt now to know what to expect from the circuit side, but just try and get a good start and put together a solid race.
Thanks, Chaz.
Thank you.
Lining up alongside Davies, the man who will replace him for 2021 as teammate to Scott Redding, Michael Ruben Rinaldi. That's a fine reward for his first podiums and win in only his third World Superbike campaign. 13th this time last year. He's 7th overall in 2020.
Yeah, for Rinaldi, we've been able to see him all the way through from the restarted season. Very consistent inside the top 6. Able to come away with a top 5 in the Superpole session. It's good pace, but he struggled all the way through the weekend. So let's wait and see if that's one lap or if he's got that genuine pace.
World number 3 in 2018. Michael van der Mark replicating that in his final season on the Pata Yamaha will be his target this weekend. 17 consecutive top 10 finishes for the Dutchman, who's rather been chasing the medal position since a low-scoring weekend in Jerez.
Yeah, he's 19 points behind Chaz Davies in that battle for third in the World Championship. So that's still very much in play, considering we know that the Yamaha is going to be strong here in Estoril. So for Van der Mark, he needs to make sure he's able to take a big chunk out of that today.
Yeah, certainly the idea will be for Van der Mark to finish in front of Davies for the remaining 3 races of this season. They line up together on the second row of the grid. Row 2 then is Davies, Rinaldi and Van der Mark. Behind them, the third row of the grid, Alex Lowe's, Alvaro Bautista and Xavi Forés. The first of our Kawasaki runners is Lowe's, back on the podium last time out in Manicourt, and for the first time since the season opener, improving his championship ranking this weekend. Looks pretty difficult. He's also going to have his hands full with Razgatlioglu and Rinaldi snapping at his heels in the standings.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough task in World SBK at the moment. If you don't quite have everything perfect, instead of like in previous years being able to fight it out for a podium, you're suddenly further down the field, and that's what we've seen all the way through the season with the riders fighting it out for third in the championship. A little bit more up and down compared to some previous campaigns, but for Lowe's last time out in Magny-Cours, able to make that step forward, trying to bring it forward once again this week.
A look of focus and concentration from Jonathan Rea. He knows the task ahead of him. We've just mentioned how strong the field is in World SBK these days. It's not going to be as straightforward as perhaps it might have been in past recent seasons to cut your way through.
Yeah, we've had so many different winners, so many different podium men all the way through this season. All of these riders are good riders. There's lots of good bikes, lots of good teams now, and that makes it much more difficult to try and come through the field. That's why it's going to be interesting to follow the progress of Scott Redding from the back.
Alvaro Bautista, twice a winner here in his 125cc days. The Spaniard really had a miserable weekend in France. He'll be eager to bounce straight back to end this season on a high.
Yeah, and for Bautista, we've seen really strong races, strong Superpole performances. We've just seen a couple of crashes from him as well, but he's been able to be in podium contention in a few tracks this season. It's a good sign for Honda and the progress being made by that team. 35-year-old Xavi Forés with only 45 points to show from 7 2020 rounds, just 15th in the championship. This is his fourth full World SBK season. He'd never previously ranked outside of the top 10 overall. It's been a tough season for Forés in that Kawasaki. He'll be pretty pleased to come to an end to the season tomorrow and try and see what he's able to get lined up for next season. But it's been really difficult adapting to that Kawasaki.
Fourth row of the grid, Tom Sykes, Jonas Folger and Loris Baz. Sykes making his first appearance here in Estoril. This will be the 27th different circuit he's raced in World SBK. 54 points behind where he was after the same number of races in 2019. Pretty miserable recent run, really, for BMW and Tom Sykes. Jonas Folger alongside him. The 27-year-old has now sewn up the German championship with an unbeaten 8-race winning streak. Returns to World SBK for a second wildcard appearance of the campaign. 9 points from 3 races at the Catalunya round.
Yeah, and for Folger, really important to be able to have a good result here. We know the Yamaha is going to be strong. Didn't quite get to show what he could do in Catalunya the last time he was in action. Now he's got the chance in the fourth row of the grid. It's not a great Superpole effort by him, but it's not a bad one either, and he gives him a good chance of being able to make some progress, get himself up into the top 8.
Completing the fourth row of the grid, it's Loris Baz. 44 points from the Manicourt weekend have pulled him away from the fringes of the top 10 to a comfortable 8th overall. 3 podium finishes in the last 2 rounds show he's continuing to make progress on the 10 Kate Yamaha. That completes the front 4 rows of our grid. Further back down the order, Jonathan Rea will be lining up from row 5. Anthony Nelson catches up with his crew chief, Pere Riba.
So Pere Riba, first off, ask you how Johnny is feeling, because that was a pretty big crash earlier on Superpole.
Yeah, he's okay. Luckily, it was quite big crash, but he physically is okay. And anyway, we changed the bike. It's another bike, and he made a couple of laps. And feels not so bad, then okay, let's see how he feels during the race and how he can finish.
Just quickly before they kick us off the grid, how is he going to approach this race? What have you told him how to approach this race? Because he's not used here to start in the middle. It's a bit of a difficult position from 15th. What is his approach going to be?
I think he's gonna try to make his best. I mean, if he feels good with the bike and he's talking well with the bike, I'm sure he's trying to do his best result, you know, and let's see how he can do it.
Well, best of luck to all the team.
No problem, thank you.
Jonathan Rea, then, as a reminder, will be lining up from 15th position on the grid after a rare error in the Super Pole session earlier on today. We just caught up with Federico Caricasulo, who's one of the first two riders that Rea is going to have to try and pass. Caricasulo lining up from 13th position. Only 4 top 10 finishes for him in 2020. He's been replaced in the GRT camp for next season. Certainly hasn't gone as hoped for the Italian so far. Alongside him, Eugene Laverty, the Irishman, making his first visit to Estoril since his 250cc days. An average finish of just 13th this season. Only 2 points scored in Manicourt despite starting on pole. It's Jonathan Rea who completes row number 5. We see Tati Mercado, who lines up directly behind. The next 6 riders you'll see on that grid are the ones that Scott Redding has got to pass before he can even think about chasing Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, lots of work to be done for the likes of Jonathan Rea and Scott Redding coming through from the back of the field after their qualifying crashes. But lots of work to be done at the front of the field as well, because for all these riders, they know that they're going to be chasing down a horde of Yamahas. Yamaha being very strong all the way through this weekend.
So the 6th row of the grid will feature Mercado, Ferrari, Moraes, Takahashi, Granado and Cresson behind, and Redding has got to do the job from the back. Nothing less than a win will do. Following his Race 2 victory in Manicourt, Scott Redding has dragged World Superbike's 2020 title quest to the season finale. Nothing less than 3 more wins will do now to keep his slender hopes alive. Jonathan Rea is just 3 points away from an unprecedented 6th consecutive crown, while behind a 5-way fight continues for bronze. The first visit to Estoril in a generation, the penultimate day of the 2020 season, Race 1 coming up. Big news stories in the Super Pole session earlier on here today. A crash in the opening 6 minutes of the session for our top 2 in the series standings. Jonathan Rea will start all the way down in 15th position. Scott Redding was on his first flying lap when he went down. He's got to start from the back of the grid. We've also lost the services of Sylvain Barrier, who's declared unfit with a concussion through that Super Pole session. Could be pretty action-packed on the opening couple of laps, Steve.
Yeah, you don't want to put any money down on this race right now, because we've got our title contenders trying to come through from the back of the field. This man, Jonathan Rea, in the number 1 Kawasaki, he only needs a few points this weekend to be able to clinch the title. Scott Redding on the number 45 Ducati needs to win all 3 races, so all the pressure's on Scott Redding. We'll keep an eye on his progress through the field. You'll certainly expect to see him make up a lot of space in the opening laps of the race, but then once he gets into that midfield, it's going to get an awful lot more competitive.
As we've said previously, we know that Jonathan Rea is more than capable of fighting his way through when he needs to. The reverse grid races of seasons gone by certainly ensured that skill was well and truly honed, as he regularly started from 9th on the grid and often found his way through into the podium positions by the end of the opening lap. So Rea is an incisive overtaker. We know he's going to be fighting his way through. The risk is that he might be slightly reticent, knowing that the championship is very much on the line.
One problem for all these riders is going to be overtaking, because it's a tight, narrow circuit here in Estoril. A lot of the corners lead one into the other. There's a couple of different lines you can take around this track, but it's very difficult to actually make overtaking moves. Down here in towards turn 7, we've seen lots of mistakes into this corner. It's actually just at turn 6 where Scott Redding and his crash during the Super Pole session. But this downhill section just builds momentum all the way. You come down in towards the tight chicane. It's an overtaking opportunity, but only if you barge down the inside. You'll cost each other time, and if you're Scott Redding coming from the back of the field, you can't really afford to cost yourself time. So he has to make his moves on the start-finish straight down in towards turn 1. That's going to be the key place for him.
That's certainly going to be the action hotspot of race 1, particularly in the early stages. But watch out for our championship duo then. Scott Redding will be starting from the very back, Jonathan Rea from P15. The gap between them is 59 points. If it's 62 at the end of this one, then Jonathan Rea is world champion. Scott Redding must take the victory here, and of course Jonathan Rea will will need only 13th or higher to ensure that World Championship crown. So it's Redding who has got to narrow the gap. As I was saying, if Jonathan Rea had been 62 points in front, leaving Manicourt, he would already be world champion. So he's only 3 points away. Meanwhile, there's the sideline battle of the battle for bronze, and a separate story and a subtext to the action in race 1 of the race podium itself here in Estoril. The first WorldSBK race around this circuit since 1993. Rare that the focus is on the back 3 rows of the grid. Jonathan Rea in 15th, Scott Redding from the very back. Race number 1. Watch for the green and the red fighting their way through as the lights go on. And off in Estoril for the first time in 27 years. Decent start for Michael Ruben Rinaldi. It's a good getaway for Toprak Razgatlioglu. Leon Haslam being swallowed up in the run down to turn 1. Rinaldi cutting through for second place. Alex Lowe's making a good start, going all the way around the outside of Leon Haslam as well and challenging for 4th position. Redding has already made up a bunch of places. In fact, I think he's seen off something like 6 riders on the opening turn alone. Redding already fighting his way through, as is Jonathan Rea. Chaz Davies is the next man in his sights. This is where things start to get that little bit more difficult. Davies losing positions hand over fist in the early running. It's Razgatlioglu who's got the advantage. Rea fighting his way through the field quite nicely, is already up into 8th position. He's seen off the likes of Baz and Sykes, Forres and Bautista, who round out your top 12. A moment there for Alex Lowe's. That's an opportunity down the inside for Michael van der Mark. Meanwhile, Garrett Gerloff cuts past Michael Ruben Rinaldi for 2nd place. So it's now Razgatlioglu in front. It's Gerloff in 2nd position. It's Rinaldi in 3rd. Haslam 4th, Lowe's in 5th, Van der Mark 6th, and Jonathan Rea is up to 7th place as Chaz Davies defends 8th position, having been passed by the reigning world champion. He might lose another position here. Yeah,
business as usual for Jonathan Rea, able to make that progress nice and early. We saw him standing up, Chaz Davies on the run through turn 6. Now he's been able to try and make sure he's able to get in the back of that leading group. For Jonathan Rea, he's into 7th place, so he's already in that lead group. He's made it perfectly clear he wants to win this championship from the front. He's not thinking in terms of taking it easy and trying to pick up some points.
Disastrous start for Chaz Davies. Finally gets a decent result in a Super Pole session, and he loses 4 places on the opening lap alone. Now it's on to the start-finish straight at the end of the opening lap, and we expect to see a bundle of position changes potentially here. Up front, Razgatlioglu has bolted pretty well. He's put half a second between himself and Garrett Gerloff. Rinaldi is under pressure. Rea swarming down the inside. He's going to pass 2 in 1 manoeuvre into turn 1. He's got through on Lowe's. He's got through on Van der Mark as well. Lowe's is trying to capitalise. Van der Mark has lost 2 places. He was fighting in front of Alex Lowe's. He's going to recover in front of the number 22 Kawasaki now. But the man on a mission is Jonathan Rea. 10 places already gained. He wants to see off this 6th world title in style.
The problem for Scott Redding further down the field is he made all his moves on the run down towards turn 1. He didn't pass anyone from the entry to turn 1 all the way through the rest of that lap, whereas Jonathan Rea is making moves like this. So Jonathan Rea showing that he's able to overtake people, he's able to barge down the inside, he's able to force the moves, whereas Scott Redding, the man that has to win the races, is still down in 15th spot.
Yes, the crucial gap in the context of the championship is that Scott Redding is already more than 4 seconds behind Toprak Razgatlioglu, who's the man he needs to beat out in front at present. Rea has now got Leon Haslam in his sights. This is for 4th position. Haslam becoming slightly tailed off from Michael Ruben Rinaldi, who picked off the British veteran early on. Rea looking menacing. It's not going to be into the flip-flop this time around. Rea being held back by Haslam is still in 5th place. Van der Mark is trying to find his way through as well. Rea takes a slightly alternative racing line through the right-hander, but he's not able to find his way through for the moment at least. This is a matter of time surely now for Jonathan Rea on the tail of Leon Haslam. Haslam's still doing a great job up in 4th position with his teammate Bautista down in 12th, but you fancy that once Jonathan Rea has got through on Haslam, he's going to be able to eat up the kilometres on Michael Ruben Rinaldi ahead. It's always a powerful moment for the Honda on a start-finish straight. It's a bike that does well in terms of top speed, but even so, Jonathan Rea in the slipstream is able to come through into turn number 1. So the move is made. Rea's up to 4th. Big moment there for Michael van der Mark.
Yeah, certainly for Jonathan Rea, you can see he was so much faster mid-corner than the Honda and able to make the move down in towards turn 1 using the slipstream and making the move on the brakes. He's going to be through on Michael Ruben Rinaldi pretty quickly as well. We've seen he's been able to just get straight onto the back of the number 21 Ducati. Look out for Scott Redding at the back of this group. He's still down there in 14th spot, so he's been able to pick off Caricasulo, but he's not making enough progress.
He's made up one position, as you say. Scott Redding, though, now hemorrhaging time. He is faster than the riders in front of him. He's going to have a go here out at Jonas Folker. That's for 13th position, but the further up the order you get, the tougher it gets. And Scott Redding is going to have his work cut out to even challenge for the podium positions, let alone the race victory that he desperately needs in the context of keeping the championship fight alive. Even if Redding were able to get there, it's all going to be for naught if Jonathan Rea can stay in the top 13 places. And look at Rea at present, looking for a move now down the inside of Michael Ruben Rinaldi. Bowled into turn 9 from Jonathan Rea, and Rinaldi is relegated down to 4th place. And Jonathan Rea, who started 15th on the grid on lap number 3, is already up into the podium places. This is a champion's performance.
Yeah, Rea just able to pick up the gas so much earlier than all the other riders around him. We saw behind Haslam, behind Rinaldi there as well, he was able to close right up onto the back of the mid-corner. Almost looked like he had to shut off, just waiting for the other riders to get on the gas, and then able to make those moves on the run into the chicane. So for Jonathan Rea, he's up into the podium spots, but Rinaldi able to answer back down the straight. We'll see if Jonathan can outbreak him on the run into turn 1. He can, and he's able to hold off that spot.
So Jonathan Rea holding on for 3rd position ahead of Michael Ruben Rinaldi, and you fancy that through the remainder of the lap is where Rea will be able to stretch his legs. He's 2.5 seconds back from Toprak Razgatlioglu, who's managed to gap Garrett Gerloff quite critically. 1.3 seconds is the gap between the top two. New fastest lap of the race, last lap around from Toprak Razgatlioglu. You have to look all the way down to 13th position to find Scott Redding. He has made his way past through on Jonas Folker. 13th place though for Redding is not enough, and as you can see from the live championship standings, it's going to be an extension of that championship lead for Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, for Scott Redding, it's down in towards turn 6 that he just can't quite brake late enough to try and force a move down into there. We saw Jonathan Rea really aggressive on the riders around him to force them to cede the position. Scott Redding's going to have to take a similar approach. At the front of the field, Toprak half a second faster last time around than Garrett Gerloff. He's opened up a lead of 1.5 seconds. He's got his head down. He's trying to make sure he's able to pull away at the front of the field. He's got his eyes on winning this race, and certainly for Toprak, he's doing everything he has to do right now. Interestingly, we've just got the tyre sheet from Pirelli. Almost the entire field opting for the same tyres front and rear. Toprak using a slightly different front tyre as the other riders, the same compound, but he's just using a different construction. Loris Baz is the only rider out there on a different rear tyre. He's taking a gamble on the SCX rear tyre.
Garrett Gerloff here we see 1.4 seconds back now from Toprak Razgatlioglu, your race leader, who's stretching things out further back. There really is a pack from 3rd position down. Jonathan Rea has broken slightly clear of Michael Ruben Rinaldi, 0.4 seconds faster than him last lap around. Looks as though Vandermark's got through on Rinaldi as well, so Vandermark coming through for 4th position. As I said, a real pack further back down the order, because behind Rea you've got Chaz Davies also starting to build up his pace on lap number 5 of 21 in race 1, and Davies now eyeing up a move on Rinaldi, takes a lunge down the inside and through he comes, and that was a bold move from Chaz Davies.
Yeah, for Davis, of course, he's been replaced on that factory Ducati by Rinaldi, so he'll want to make sure he's able to make those moves, make sure he's able to beat Rinaldi this weekend, sign off on a bit of a high on that number 7 Ducati. He's still trying to make sure he's able to finish 3rd in the World Championship, and you can see a little bit deep on the run into 6th there for Chaz Davies, able to square it off though.
So Chaz Davies holding on to 5th place, having picked his way past the man who will replace him on the Aruba IT Ducati machine for 2021. Rinaldi now pushed down to 6th position. It's Garrett Gerloff who is the top independent rider at present, but he is now 2 seconds behind Toprak Razgatlioglu and swiftly falling into the path of Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, so far in this lap, Rea's been half a second faster than Garrett Gerloff. We'll see what the times are when they come across the line, but don't be surprised if Jonathan Rea has a new fastest lap when he comes through. He's trying to close down on the 2 Yamahas out in front. 3rd place for Jonathan. It's good enough for the championship, but it's not good enough for what he wants to do.
No, we heard from Perariba on the grid saying that the target for Jonathan Rea was to get the absolute maximum out of his package. He's certainly doing that. Lap 6 of 21, and Jonathan Rea is hunting down Garrett Gerloff ahead of him. The problem for Rea is he's not making a lot of ground up compared to Toprak Razgatlioglu, and still the gap between 1st and 3rd is 2.5 seconds. Rea might find that his progress is halted once he gets to P2.
Yeah, the one thing for Jonathan Rea is he's able to ride now absolutely with confidence, with no pressure, because Scott Redding's not doing anything near enough to be able to get through the field. He's up in 11th spot. He's picked off Bautista and Tom Sykes, but he's not making that progress that he needs to make to be able to try and keep his championship hopes alive. So right now, Jonathan Rea, he's got this championship wrapped up just by virtue of what Scott Redding's doing. So Rea's able to really ride aggressively. He's able to do what he wants to do, which is just try and get to the front and win this race.
Yeah, Scott Redding with decent pace last lap around. He's certainly faster than the men around him. Redding is slowing up. Scott Redding with a problem. He shakes his head, and the World Championship for 2020 is going to be over. Nothing less than a victory would have done for Scott Redding, and Jonathan Rea will be confirmed as the 2020 title holder.
Yeah, and for Scott Redding, a technical issue there, and it brings an end to his championship, and probably part of a factor in why he's struggled to come through the field. Just keep an eye out for the 45 here, and yeah, he knows that pretty quickly coming through turn 5, and that's not the place you want to have a technical fast through there. 5th gear, really committed, and once he gets onto the exit, he knows that there's an issue, and he's able to pull off the side of the track and avoid any of the other bikes. But unfortunate for Scott Redding that his title challenge comes to an end with a technical issue.
It's a shame for everyone, really. I'm sure that Jonathan Rea would have liked to close out the championship with a result of his own on the circuit, but I'm sure the advice will be given to Jonathan Rea. The championship is over as a contest. Scott Redding is out of the race. Only his 2nd retirement of this season, and his 1st as a result of a mechanical that couldn't have come at a worse time. Real disappointment for Scott Redding, who was just on the fringes of the top 10, about to pick off Xavi Forres. He was making his way steadily through, not quite as efficiently, of course, as Jonathan Rea, who is already up into 3rd place and hunting down Garrett Gerloff for P2.
Yeah, and as I said, it's unfortunate for Redding, but now we can just focus on the race because Jonathan Rea confirmed as the world champion, and he's just going to try and close the ride up on Gerloff in front of him. You can see Michael van der Mark on that number 60 machine. Big slide there for van der Mark on the exit of 5. He's
Rea's
pushing
wide.
hard.
Rea's very wide, and there was a moment there where I thought Jonathan Rea was going to leave the circuit altogether. Michael van der Mark with a new fastest lap of the race, last lap around, is forcing Rea to push ever harder in order to hold on to that podium position.
Yeah, for van der Mark, he's pushing on, he's setting fast times, he's putting the pressure on Rea. You can see down into 6. It's easy to break that little bit too late into 6, but it's a double apex. If you do go in a bit deep, you can try and square it off and still make an exit. But van der Mark certainly looks like he's got a little bit more pace than Rea right now at this stage. But the margins are so tight between all these riders at the front. It's a 1/10 of a second really between the vast majority of them. So for van der Mark, he's going to have to make the move, but he doesn't have this massive pace advantage that you might see at other tracks. Estoril really is a good balance around here for all these different manufacturers.
Looking good for a podium position at the moment for Garrett Gerloff. Vamos comes the sign to Jonathan Rea. It's time to push, because if van der Mark gets through, he's going to make Rea's task that little bit more difficult. Rea goes defensive, but he's got offline, and van der Mark almost jammed it down the inside into turn 1. But Rea moved to the inside to cover, swept back to the racing line, left the door open for van der Mark. The Dutchman not able to squeeze through. The status quo maintained, but only half a second covering 2nd to 4th in the battle for the podium places.
Paddy Yamahas are the fast riders. Gerloff, he's bottling everyone up a little bit in this group, so Jonathan Rea needs to make the move quickly, otherwise he's going to get picked off by van der Mark. We saw last time around it was into 6 where Rea braked a little bit too deep. Maybe that's the opportunity for van der Mark.
Well, all the time, Chaz Davies is closing on the riders in front of him as well. Chaz Davies has gained 0.3 of a second on this lap so far alone, as Garrett Gerloff defends 2nd position, and Jonathan Rea attempts to chase him down. Once again, a slightly wider line through turn 6 that alarmed me a lap ago for Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, Rea braked aggressively on the run into 6 there as well. You saw that bike skip around, so he's clearly trying to...
Oh, down goes Michael van der Mark! Michael van der Mark tumbles out of the race, and van der Mark will race over to his machine, but that is critical for his hopes in the context of the battle for bronze, because Chaz Davies now comes through to 4th position, and van der Mark is tumbling down the order.
Yeah, and the problem for van der Mark is with his teammate Toprak Razgatlioglu out in front, it also means that they're closing right up on one another in their battle in the championship standings. You can see the disappointment for van der Mark. He wanted to be able to sign off with a really good result here from Yamaha here in race 1, though he's not going to be able to get it. Just pushes a little bit too hard down into 7. It's very easy for that to happen. The track drops away an awful lot more than it looks on the camera as Jonathan Rea moves himself up into 2nd spot.
Through comes Jonathan Rea on Garrett Gerloff, who's going to be late on the brakes. The back end quivering as he goes into turn 1. Rea's got the move done. Gerloff with a sweet cutback though, recovers 2nd place, and Rea has to work hard for that one. That's probably the hardest that Jonathan Rea has worked for any overtaking manoeuvre in this race so far. Jonathan Rea then from 15th on the grid is now up into P2. A quite incredible ride from the reigning world champion. Just in case you needed further evidence, That is why this man has taken his 6th world title.
Yeah, for Gerloff, he's trying to answer back, but he doesn't have the same grip as the Kawasaki, so he tries to make that cut back, isn't able to make it straight away. It's going to be a challenge for him to stay with Jonathan Rea, but right now the gap between Rea and Razgatlioglu, 3.5 seconds.
We often saw from Gerloff in the early stages of the season that he struggled to manage the life of a tyre for the full race distance. 21 laps here in Estoril. Is he just balancing his pace at this stage, or are we going to see him tumble through the order as we saw conventionally in the early stages of this season? Chaz Davies will be the next man to try and line him up. 0.6 of a second is now the gap between Gerloff in 3rd and Davies in 4th.
He's not going to tumble too far because there's a big gap to the riders behind this group, but for Gerloff it really is a case of just trying to understand what he can do with the tyre, understand how hard he can push, because we've still got another 2 races this weekend. But for Gerloff to be able to run at the front of the field 3 consecutive racetracks, that's a really big step that he's made, even from Aragon 2 all the way through to the end of the season. He's been able to make plenty of progress.
Jonathan Rea in 2nd position now, having seen his way past Garrett Gerloff. Chaz Davies is still in touch for a podium place, and a potentially crucial one as well if he can manage it. The fight's going on behind. What excitement's going on for 5th position, and you look back and it's Haslam, Lowe's and Bautista. It's Lowe's on the outside line as Haslam defends that 5th place, but as we often see, it's either one Honda or the other going well at any one time, and at the moment it's Bautista who's making up the kilometres. He's got a couple of tenths in hand per lap at the moment on the riders in front of him, and clearly Haslam is slowing down the pace of Alex Lowe's at this stage. So you mentioned it previously, Steve, we've got our lead group of riders, Razgatlioglu isolated out in front, then we've got Rea, Gerloff and Davies all covered by less than a second. 5 seconds down the road is this pulsating action for P5. Haslam, Lowe's and Bautista. An opportunity here perhaps for Alex Lowe's, not for the moment at least. Haslam defends.
For Haslam, he's been able to make that move on the start finish straight down in towards turn 1. Lowe's not able to attack so far in this lap. We'll see if he's got enough grip underneath him to be able to try and bring the fight to the Hondas. Obviously the Honda working well around this track with both Bautista and Haslam running up there inside the top 7. Obviously Haslam was able to qualify in the front row of the grid, so a good base for that bike this week, and certainly for Lowe's not quite able to fight on the par of where he would have been expecting to, but now he needs to make sure he's able to come out on top in that Honda scrap.
Through the left-hander at turn 12 then for Garrett Gerloff and Chaz Davies, and Gerloff once again at this stage is having to defend. Davies has eaten up the gap between the Texan and the Welshman, and now it looks as though Davies is going to launch his attack. It'll be down the start finish straight and into turn 1. It may be pretty early with Ducati power roaring Chaz Davies through up into 3rd position. Gerloff once again will try to hold on to it. Davies is aggressive, moves across the path of the Texan. Again he's going to try the cutback, but Davies is wary of that one and holds on for 3rd, and this is crucial for Davies in the context of the battle for bronze, bearing in mind that as things were, he would stand to lead by 35 points over Michael van der Mark in that race for 3rd position, and top rat Razgatlioglu will also be gaining ground with 25 championship points on offer for him out in front.
Nice move by Davis, and he's been very impressive all the way through this race. We've seen Rinaldi's pace fall all the way off. He's running about a second a lap slower than the race leaders, but Chaz Davies able to maintain his pace, able to set good lap times and able to keep himself at the front of the field. Another example of the good job Chaz Davies has done in the second half of this season. Right now he's the leading Ducati, right now he's in a position to harry and pressure Jonathan Rea.
If you take out that stunning result from Michael Ruben Rinaldi at the Teruel round, I wonder whether the decision would have been the same for the Aruba IT Ducati team, because at the moment Chaz Davies looking odds-on favourite for a bronze medal, and he made the point in great detail as to how many years he's been in those World Championship podium positions. It's looking as though 2020 is going to be another.
Yeah, but it certainly looks like it's not a Ducati Corsa sporting decision that was made, because it does seem from all the rumours around the paddock that Chaz Davies had been all but lined up for that seat to remain with the team next season. It looks like it's from above that the decision was made, so Chaz Davies trying to make sure that everyone remembers just how good a rider he is. You can see he's in a position now to attack Jonathan Rea in the run into turn 1.
And this has been a rivalry so often down the years. Green of Rea versus red of Davies, and it's Chaz Davies in his final weekend as a Ducati supported rider who cuts through on his old adversary and up into 2nd position.
And for Chaz Davies, 2 clean moves on the run down in towards turn 1. How many times in the past did we see Chaz Davies so strong on the brakes that if he outbrakes anyone, it's very difficult to try and attack back? We saw it on the Gerloff move. This move is a little bit easier for Davies, able to make it a lot earlier on the entry into the corner, but once he's got that confidence in the front end, he's always fast. And certainly for Davis, he said all the way through his time with the V4R, you give me the bike that I want, I'll be able to get good results. Every time he's had that, he's been able to run at the front. It's just good that he's been able to do it on a relatively consistent basis the second half of this season.
Rea wide once again around turn 6, and this time Garrett Gerloff is ready to take advantage. Gerloff was pushing so hard into that left-hander, and it looked as though he might be the man to make a mistake, but Rea ahead of him it was who left the racing line and allowed the Texan to pounce. So a new order up at the front of the field. It's Razgatlioglu 4 seconds clear, it's Davies in second, and it's now Garrett Gerloff who looks set to deny Jonathan Rea a podium place. Did Rea use up too much tyre in the early runnings here, getting through from 15th on the grids?
For Jonathan Rea, maybe he just doesn't quite have that same pace. We know that the Yamaha is strong around this track. We saw with Van der Mark before his crash. We see with this man, Toprak Razgatlioglu, leading so comfortably, a 4-second lead. So we know the Yamaha works really well around here. Maybe the Kawasaki just a little bit more of a struggle around here compared to the Yamaha.
Rea going for a move, attempting to recover third place. He's desperate to confirm that World Championship victory with a podium position so that he can celebrate in style. And he's got through on Garrett Gerloff. Again, the Texan tries that cutback manoeuvre off turn number 1, but can't get down the inside at turn 2. Good fight going on here. Rea going defensive. Gerloff's going to get the run. He's the faster man at this stage of the race, it seems, but Rea doing a good job into turn 1 to recover the place.
Yeah, Rea doing everything he can just to stay in front of Garrett Gerloff at this stage. Maybe the Kawasaki is struggling a little bit more than those riders around them. I was just about to say that further behind this, we've got that group obviously with Bautista and Haslam fighting with Lowe's. That's about 7 seconds behind this. So maybe the Kawasaki just not quite as comfortable out here as what we saw from the Yamahas, for instance, obviously with Toprak and Gerloff really strong right now.
Full credit to Bautista, who was quite significantly further back than Haslam on the grid, but has now managed to get through on his teammate and is actually faster than the riders in front of him as well at this stage. So Bautista doing a good job in 5th, but that's the ceiling, I think, for the Honda man, because as we've said, it's 7 seconds then the gap to this fight in front of him. Jonathan Rea versus Garrett Gerloff for 3rd position, and while these two fight with one another, Chaz Davies is escaping away, and it's turning into a duel for P3.
Yeah, this really is the battle out on track right now. We do have a really big group scrapping it out for 5th position, but a podium battle are always an interesting fight, and another time where we're able to see that Garrett Gerloff just isn't afraid of going up against the reputations of some of these leading riders in WorldSBK.
As you can see on your screen, Federico Caricasulo has gone down at the fast right-hander, turn 7, up at the front of the field. Garrett Gerloff responds. A lap ago, Rea was able to move through on the Texan into turn 1. This time around, it's the American's turn to move back into the podium places. These two trading blows at this stage.
And for Garrett Gerloff, this is really impressive. Just to, like I said a few laps ago, show the impressive pace that he had in Catalonia, where he was able to fight for podiums, show good speed in the wet conditions in race 1 in Magny-Cours, and now to be able to do this in the dry at a brand new circuit shows just how much he's come along all the way through this season.
And there's not much doubt that we can look forward to plenty from Garrett Gerloff in 2021, because of course he will be staying put on that GRT Yamaha. For the moment, he'll be focused on taking a podium position here. Look at him start to gap Jonathan Rea now, and it looks as though Rea does not have the answer. Lap 14 of 21. Just over 7 laps to go for Toprak Razgatlioglu, and he's looking comfortable now. His pace, he's just matching it to the riders behind him to maintain his advantage.
Toprak, he's still within a 10th of a second of the fastest lap of this race, so his pace very fast, very consistent, and doing exactly what he has to do. Look at this gaggle of riders fighting it out for 5th place. Bautista, Lowe's, Haslam, Rinaldi, Baz, Forres, Tom Sykes is at the back of that group. All of them in with a shout of being able to make some moves.
4.5 seconds covering 5th all the way down to 11th. This is a place to watch for sure, as we focus in on Loris Baz, who is 3rd in the independent riders at present. Jonas Folger just being tailed off slightly from that group that, as I said, is all covered by pretty slender margins. And actually, if you discount Folger, it's even tighter than that. Just 2.5 seconds from Bautista down to Sykes. Baz then heading back into turn number 1. Looks as though he's going to get swallowed up here by Xavi Forres. Baz not so. Baz is deeper on the brakes. It's Haslam who is moving backwards. He's been passed by Bautista. He's been passed by Lowe's. Set a new personal best lap last time around. So attempting to consolidate now in lap P7.
A few riders setting personal bests last time around with just a 2/3 distance, so it shows that the tyres are working quite well all the way through. What will be interesting to see is whether or not riders make a change in their tyre selection for tomorrow's race on the basis of what they've been able to do during the course of this 21-lap race. It really is a voyage into the unknown whenever you come to a brand new circuit like this. The longest runs we saw from anyone during the practice sessions was 10 or 11 laps, so suddenly you're really into the point where you haven't been at any stage over the weekend. Now you're trying to see just how the tyres react after 15 consecutive hard laps.
At the moment, it doesn't look as though Jonathan Rea is going to be able to make it onto the podium in race 1, but you've got to give him full credit for working his way up so swiftly from 15th on the grid. It was like a PlayStation game the way he was cutting his way through.
Yeah, we saw it whenever he had to start from the third row of the grid, whenever we had the grid reshuffles for race 2 in the past. He's always able to be very aggressive off the line. He's always able to try and make some moves. He's not afraid of that. He's got full confidence in what his bike's going to do underneath him, even whenever it's on a full tank with fresh tyres. So for Jonathan Rea, he was able to just call him that experience. You can see for Garrett Gerloff, he's not afraid of letting that bike slide all the way through that last corner. We saw him free practice. He was always with that back end sliding out. So for Garrett Gerloff, we'll keep an eye on what his lap times are doing, just to make sure that he's not overusing that tyre. But right now his pace, very consistent. He's doing exactly what he has to do.
Back to the fight further back as Leon Haslam thinks about a manoeuvre on the inside of Alex Lowe's. So Haslam recovering quite nicely at this stage. We're seeing the Kawasaki struggling to defend their positions. Rea's gone to the back of the lead group. He's down in 4th. Then it's Bautista, Lowe's, Haslam, Rinaldi, Baz, Forres rounding out the top 10. This is Tati Mercado in the second to last of the points paying positions. And the riders in front of him, he's got 2 BMWs for company. Sykes 11th, Laverty 13th. Neither BMW inside the top 10. Another tough race for them.
Yeah, another tough weekend for BMW. You can see Sykes just at the back of this group. What's interesting is Lowe's, Haslam, Rinaldi and Baz all setting their fastest laps last time around. Baz is out there on the X tyre, so the 10-lap Super Pole tyre, and he's been able to set fast times well into the final third of this race. So that does show that you probably could get away with a different tyre for tomorrow's race, but everyone just nice and conservative for this race. They were all trying to basically just match what was going to be the easy choice to see if it was able to work for the course of 21 laps. Tomorrow's going to be a very different race.
Credit to Bautista, who's got to the front of this group well, and this is going to be another strong showing for the number 19, the reigning world number 2, of course. Bautista sits 5th, Alex Lowe's and Leon Haslam behind him, then Michael Ruben Rinaldi, Loris Baz and Xavi Forres. Further up the order, Chaz Davies, still the best part of a second clear of Garrett Gerloff, so it's calm in the top 4 for the moment at least, and Toprak Razgatlioglu will be counting down the laps until he can claim his second victory of the season. Haslam right in the slipstream here of Alex Lowe's. This is for 6th place, and it's going to be Lowe's who looks vulnerable to the Honda attack down the inside into turn 1. Can Haslam get it stopped? The two Brits going side by side. Haslam's done a good job there, back up into 6th place. So Leon Haslam, who was passed by Bautista and Lowe's in successive laps, has recovered against the number 22 for 6th.
Good move there from Haslam, able to use the slipstream, use the power of that Honda to make the move. It looks like he's ran wide though through the right-hander. Lowe's able to get back down underneath him. This is the move into turn 1. This is the typical move you see into turn 1. You basically leave it where there's no option for your rival other than to give up that position. You try and see if maybe you're able to try and make a cutback move, but because of the layout of the track, it's actually very difficult to do that. It really is a case of whoever's able to take the high line really does offer themselves the chance of picking their exit as well. So good move there by Haslam. We'll see if he's been able to keep Lowe's behind him. It looked like he might have ran in a little bit hot into one of the corners.
Back up at the front then, Toprak Razgatlioglu, as I said, counting down the laps before he can claim his second victory of this 2020 season. The last, remember, was all the way back in Australia, our season opener. He's looking in control here. He was one of the championship favourites in the opening rounds of the season, but a little bit of misfortune early on and then a lack of form and pace since has rather stymied his chances. Still in with a shout of that bronze medal, mathematically speaking, but Chaz Davies up in 2nd place in this race looks set to end that fight as well.
Yeah, and for Davis, you can see there the gap back to Davis, 4.5 seconds, and Chaz doing exactly what he has to do to be able to hold on to that 3rd in the World Championship, give himself that opportunity of a nice healthy bonus as well as the bronze medal for finishing in 3rd in the championship.
Yes, remember, of course, that the Super Pole race is not worth the full quota of points that we'll see awarded in race 2 tomorrow. So it's 37 that are on offer. As things stand, Chaz Davies would be 39 points clear of Michael van der Mark after van der Mark's incident, and 42 points clear of Raz Gatlioglu. So it looks as though we will have our championship position settled after this one, though Scott Redding failing to score, of course, remains on 281, so Davies would close that up as well and move on to 242. But I think we're settling down as far as the championship is concerned. Focuses on the battles out on track. It's certainly been a good performance from Toprak here today.
Yeah, Toprak riding well, Chaz Davies riding well, Garrett Gerloff riding really well. Gerloff doing a good job this year to really advertise just what the level is in Moto America. Obviously over the last few years, all the talk's been about Cameron Beaubier and getting him over to World Superbikes. This year we were able to see Gerloff come in. He was brave enough to uproot and take a gamble and see what he could do, and he's really proven himself and proven the level of the top guys in Motor America as well. Obviously Cameron Beaubier linked with Superbike seats during the course of the summer. Looks like he could potentially be going on the way to the Grand Prix paddock for next year, so really good signs of the work that's been done in Moto America to develop some leading riders.
Is it too late to change my mind? I think there might be more than a couple of teams watching Chaz Davies here and thinking, why on earth is this man without a ride for 2021? It is absolutely bonkers. He's in second position here. He's 4 seconds behind Toprak Raz Gatlioglu. He's picked off the man who's about to be officially crowned as world champion, Jonathan Rea, who is relegated down to 4th. He's fought and he has worked his way back through. Remember, he lost positions in the early stages, Chaz Davies, despite starting 4th on the grid. It's been a really good ride from him as well.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. And just going back to Davis, I think one of the big things to remember is it's very similar to the situation we saw a few years ago with Eugene Laverty. He made, obviously he was on the Aprilia, able to fight for a world championship, and then lost out on holding on to that seat. Suddenly had to scramble around trying to find something for the following year. And Chaz Davies seems in a very similar situation where he's been able to fight it out at the front. He's been able to win a race this year, challenge for podiums, put in a really consistent second half of the season, and just by a bit of bad luck really and misfortune, he finds himself where he doesn't seem to have too many options for next year.
Oh, Bautista! Alvaro Bautista is down yet again! The Spaniard attempting to haul the machine out of the gravel trap is an all too familiar sight. He's gone down at the left-hander, turn 6.
Yeah, for Bautista, that's the long double apex left-hander, and you're going to see that just going to miss the middle of that crash, but it's in the middle of the corner that he's lost that front end, and certainly for Bautista, that's unfortunately what we've seen a few times already through this season, where he's crashed out of podium places, he's crashed out of leading positions, and this is another one where he's crashed out of a good battle there for 5th position.
And a battle that he was at the front of, and instead it's his teammate Leon Haslam who takes up the mantle. Haslam's still defending actually, because he's got Lowe's and Rinaldi for company, and there is nothing to separate the three of them at the moment. In fact, they were almost 3 abreast. Lowe's is going to get alongside Haslam. We saw the move in the other direction between these two, and Lowe's has managed to get it stopped, so that's a good recovery move from Alex Lowe's. He's back up to 5th.
Yeah, they've had quite a few battles all the way through this season. Certainly not where either of them want to be battling in for 5th position, but they want to come out on top of this one. And with a lap and a half to go, it's Lowe's in front. But like you said, Rinaldi's coming strong. You can see Baz at the back of that group as well. Baz still able to set decent lap times. His pace has dropped off slightly in the last couple of laps. As I said earlier, he's on that X tyre, so maybe just struggling a little bit to match the pace of the riders in front of him.
These two had a fair few battles on different machinery last season as well, of course. And Haslam has gone in an opposite direction, leaving KRT. It's Alex Lowe's who was the man to replace him. Lowe's at the moment defending 5th. Haslam takes the wider line through the left-hander this time around, where his teammate a lap ago, Alvaro Bautista, went down. It's Lowe's then who holds that 5th place. Haslam, Rinaldi looking menacing. Baz, for the moment, a second behind, with Forres and Sykes within a second of him for company, rounding out your top 10.
Lowe's and Haslam were golfing together on Thursday. Not sure who took the money in that game, but in this battle on track, it's definitely going to be a little bit more competitive than what they would have had on the golf course this week, but they'll want to come out on top of that. You can see Toprak Raz Gatlioglu comes across the line. He's way out in front at the moment, but Chaz Davies coming under a little bit of pressure there from Garrett Gerloff. That gap under a second, and Gerloff a little bit faster last time around than Davies, but probably enough in hand there for Chaz Davies.
Yes, I think the camera lies ever so slightly from a distance on the start-finish straight. It certainly looked as though Garrett Gerloff was making his move, but for the moment at least not able to do so. Again, Haslam responds down the inside of Lowe's into turn 1. one, twitchy on the brakes, but he does manage to get it stopped. So Alex Lowe's is pushed back down to 6th position once again as Leon Haslam recovers.
Yeah, Haslam doing a good job there in the run down in towards turn 1. We've seen him use that top end power of the Honda a few times. Lowe's just trying to run around the outside there. It just looked like maybe on the entry into the corner, caught a little bit by surprise maybe by Haslam. You can see there for Toprak though, lapping Loris Cresson. We don't tend to see that too often in World SBK.
No, and Cresson is finding out the hard way, the step forward in World SBK compared to World Supersport. Well, we saw the t-shirts being given out, and now they are being worn. It's moments away. They don't need to be as nervous as they look down there because it's all but confirmed. Scott Redding is out of the race. Jonathan Rea is making his way through the final sector and making history here in Estoril. It'll be the second time that a Superbike World Championship has been confirmed around this circuit, and it's going to be title number 6 for Jonathan Rea. Toprak Razgatlioglu then heading towards victory, but all of the focus is on the number 1. He couldn't do it in Manicourt. He had to wait till Estoril. Toprak Razgatlioglu wins the Estoril round, race number 1, but Jonathan Rea comes out of the final turn to be confirmed world champion in 2020. The celebrations can begin. Rea has done it for a 6th year in a row. Can you believe it? It's not with a 100th race victory, but it is with a champion's ride from 15th on the grid, carving his way into the podium places, eventually relegated to 4th, and you can see what that means to him, not least after that dramatic Super Bowl crash earlier on today.
Yeah, the real ups and downs for Jonathan Rea through the course of only a few hours, but we saw at the start of this race, he set his stall out. He wanted to try and get to the front as early as possible. He wanted to be aggressive. He wanted to win this one in style, and he's certainly been able to do that.
So it's the 6 rings for the 6 championships. Jonathan Rea, we've seen plenty of celebrations, of course, in recent years and all in consecutive seasons. This man just does not let up, and it has been another sensational season from him. It was great to see Scott Redding fighting for all he was worth. Disappointment in the end. He had to start from the back of the grid, and then, of course, that mechanical retirement ended his challenge. Would have been great to see it finally decided on track rather than at the side of the track for Scott Redding. But there's no doubt that we knew who was going to be the world champion leaving this weekend after we left Manicourt. He was only 3 points away from the title in the Pirelli French round, and in a shortened calendar, he has once again been able to show that dominant consistency that we've seen for the last 5 years as well.
Yeah, a shortened calendar, but a more difficult calendar, arguably, for Kawasaki, with the tracks that were removed from the calendar, the likes of Imola or Assen, Qatar, tracks where we've traditionally seen Jonathan Rea so strong. Donington as well, of course, home round for a British rider, and for Jonathan Rea, you lose out on those tracks and suddenly it becomes a lot more difficult to try and win a world championship. But we've been able to see once again this year Kawasaki find a way to keep maximising that bike in tough conditions all the way through this season as well. High temperatures, the kind of conditions where the Kawasaki's traditionally struggled, they've been able to make a big step forward.
Well, it's celebration time for Jonathan Rea. I can't help but feel that it's taken some of the gloss off Toprak Razgatlioglu's victory because he deserves his credit as well. That's his first podium since the Superpole race in Portimao. So there's obviously something about Portugal for Toprak, but this is Jonathan Rea's moment yet again. And he said that he was a little bit bored of sealing the championship in Manicourt anyway, so I'm sure he'll enjoy the party in Estoril this weekend. Socially distanced, of course.
Definitely going to be a party. You can see Kev there on the right-hand side, one of Johnny's mates, and for Kev, I saw him last night and he was having a glass of wine and he said hopefully we get something a little bit different to drink tonight, and certainly for everyone within Team 65 there's going to be that opportunity.
Yes, everyone except Jonathan Rea is going to be racing tomorrow, of course, with the Super Bowl race and race 2, and the only thing that remains for him now is to seal up that 100th win. It may well have to wait until race 2 though, because he's going to have to start from 15th on the grid again, of course, in the Super Bowl race, the shortest Super Bowl race of the season. I think we might see him a little bit aggressive in the opening laps.
I think there's a good chance that he's going to try and make the same sort of moves in the Super Bowl race tomorrow.
So the celebration can begin for Jonathan Rea, an historic moment in World SBK history. The first 6-time world champion. And this is where he will be garbed up officially as a 6-time world champion, and the trophy presentation, of course, still to come. Bit of a shame that we didn't get to see Jonathan Rea on the race podium as well, because I think it would have been well deserved for the way he fought his way through in the early laps.
Yeah, it really would have been, but unfortunately for Rea, just didn't quite have the same pace as some of those riders around him. But it's all about being able to get the job done.
Certainly had the determination. Here are the 6 rings of a champion for Jonathan Rea. Great photo opportunity as well. It's number 6. And there it is. He has been combative, hasn't he, through race 1. And he wasn't about to just sit in 13th position and do the bare minimum. We heard from Perariba on the grid. That's what it was going to be all about, making his way as high up the field as he possibly could. And he took the fight up to 2nd position before eventually being pushed back down to 4th.
Yeah, able to do a really good job in those early laps. And obviously once Scott Redding hit his problems, then the championship was confirmed. There's Scott Redding waiting for Jonathan down in Park Ferme as well to offer his congratulations. Good sportsmanship there from Redding on what must be a disappointing moment for him, but all the way through this season we've seen both of those riders have tremendous respect for one another.
Well, we said that Scott Redding is a fighter, but he really has been slugged to the end by Jonathan Rea. His hopes and dreams battered throughout today. Firstly, with that crash that left him at the back of the grid, and then, of course, with that retirement through a mechanical failure. But you can't blame the World Championship defeat on that. It has been the sheer dominance of Jonathan Rea that has enabled him to take the title, and clearly an emotional moment for him. The gold helmet on, the 6 in a row. As I said, unprecedented in World Superbike history. Truly, he is the greatest of all time.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it at this stage for Jonathan Rea. He's left it where there's no question that can really be asked about the dominance that we've seen from him over the last few years, and just continues to find ways to keep winning. It gets harder and harder, it doesn't get easier, and he keeps somehow managing to get the job done.
6th world title for Jonathan Rea, and it's also the 8th Riders title for Kawasaki, and a special moment for KRT as well.
Yeah, it really is. We've been able to see them have tremendous success with Tom Sykes as well as Jonathan Rea. Obviously, Loris Baz has been able to win races with that team as well over the last few years. Alex Lowe's this year as well. It really is a crack outfit. Jonathan
Rea then attempting to get going, and he can complete his lap of honour with the flag as well. Customary celebrations, I say. By this time, it's all well and truly choreographed. And thankfully for the team, they didn't have to be superstitious about those T-shirts. They could start handing them out as soon as Scott Redding retired.
Yeah, for a lot of teams, for a lot of riders, they're not superstitious, but they're a little stitious. And for Jonathan Rea, certainly, he's one of those riders that doesn't want to talk about the opportunities to win championships and talk about a season until the season's actually done. But whenever he looks back on this year, he's definitely going to have to look at what's been a very tough campaign, despite what the championship table might look like. He's had to dig deep a lot of times. This is as competitive a field as we've seen in WorldSBK for a long time. Lots of top riders, lots of good bikes. We've seen Yamaha, Ducati, Kawasaki able to win races. We've seen Honda on the podium. We've seen a BMW pole position. We've seen 5 manufacturers that all have different reasons to find a positive spin about different points of the season.
Yes, you absolutely can't say that it's been one-way traffic to a total extent. You can pick up examples where Rea finished further back down the order. That's 6th place in Jerez, 4th places in the last 2 race 2s, i.e. Catalonia and France, and even 4th position here today is an example that everyone is fallible, but Rea certainly looks above human when he works his way through traffic in that fashion. Race results then, race 1, here are the Estoril round. It's Razgat Lioglu who wins it ahead of Davies and Gerloff. Yet another podium, good recent run for the Welshman, and a 2nd for Garrett Gerloff after his fine exploits in the Catalonia round. Jonathan Rea takes 4th and the world title. It's Leon Haslam who rounds out the top 5, getting the better of Alex Lowe's and that train of riders behind. Xavi Forés, 8th position. That was a creditable performance from him. Loris Baz and Tom Sykes rounding out your top 10. But all of the focus is on Jonathan Rea, and everyone waiting for him now to get back to Parc Ferme so that the celebrations can begin in earnest. He might not have taken a podium position, but now that he's confirmed as the world champion, a special exception is going to be made for him to head in there and celebrate with our podium trio.
Yeah, and we'll be able to hear from Jonathan down in Parc Ferme as well. And certainly for the world champion, he's been able to have just a really strange day here today. Ups and downs of racing. He was on the deck after the opening moments of the Super Pole session. He's had to come out now in this race, start from the 5th row of the grid, try and really fight his way through in those opening laps, make the progress, try and then battle it out to see if he was able to stand on the podium. Not quite able to do that. but at least able to get the job done, and then he's got something to build on for tomorrow to really try and enjoy that race.
Here comes Jonathan Rea then, emblematic as ever, and stood on the stirrups as he makes his way in as well. Jonathan Rea with the celebrations. Might be the first mistake he's made, not knowing quite where he needed to end up. But Perariba is there to greet him in. Jonathan Rea is your 2020 world champion, and he's done it in style with a super performance, working his way through from the 5th row of the grid to take 4th position. Not sure about the celebratory dance, but he's done everything else 100%.
Yeah, a bit of dancing there from Jonathan Rea on the pegs, but certainly for this group around Jonathan, that's been the same crew that he's had all the way through his time with Kawasaki. You can see Scott Redding now coming in to offer his congratulations.
And it is a special moment. There's always great sportsmanship in WorldSBK. And this moment is an emotional one, I'm sure, for Scott Redding as well, to have to offer the congratulations. He enters exit stage right. Of course, he won't feature in the post-race celebrations. His retirement costing him a shot of fighting his way through. Would have been interesting to see just how far he could get. Certainly fancy that the top 5 was at least an option for him, but the top 4 certainly able to break away from the rest of the pack in race 1. There's more WorldSBK action still to come in 2020, so that's good news. We've got 2 races here tomorrow, and the first outings for Jonathan Rea as a 6-time world champion. We said it previously when he got underway, and he said so in his autobiography, he could never have dreamed of matching Carl Fogarty's exploits. Well, he's not just matched them, he's blown them away. Let's hear from our race 1 winner, Toprak Razgatlioglu.
Toprak, you started the year with a win. You said you wanted to end this season with a win. Well, race 1 here, that was absolutely dominant from you.
Today I'm really happy because this morning we tried new setup. I'm feeling very good, and also for me, first time qualifying, I'm pole position, and yeah, today very good day, and yeah, we are happy. Again win, again podium, and but tomorrow we will see, and also we try again podium.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Toprak Razgatlioglu is your winner by a 3-second margin. Tomorrow we'll try again. He says he was cautious on that final lap. It would have been even more. It was pretty comfortable, actually. He built that lead in the early stages and then simply maintained the gap from there and maintained a very impressive and consistent pace too.
Yeah, Toprak looked really strong all the way through that race. Yamaha's looked strong all the way through this weekend. And for Toprak, just a nice culmination in the hard work from yesterday as well. And certainly he's going to feel very confident for tomorrow's races as well.
Podium number 7 of this season for Toprak Razgatlioglu, but the first 6 all happened in the opening 3 rounds, so it's back to form for Toprak with a race victory, continuing his recent strong run. Meanwhile, Chaz Davies takes second.
Chaz, it was a bit of a slow start off the blocks, but after that, your pace was absolutely fantastic. How did you feel that race?
Yeah, it felt good. Like you said, start was terrible, but once I got going, it was a bit chaotic early on. Managed to pick my way through a bit, and then was kind of marking Van der Mark. Just obviously we were playing it out for 3rd in the championship, and then when he went down, that took a little bit of pressure off, and I was able to run my own race, find a way through on Garrett and Johnny, and yeah, just kept looking at Toprak. I was sort of hoping that he might drop a bit dramatic, but no, he had great pace. Fair play to him. He disappeared in the early laps, and yeah, very happy with that though, to lock up 3rd in the championship. That was the goal this weekend. I didn't think I'd get it done today, and after all the stress and BS of the last few weeks, it's yeah, it's nice to get this done and go into tomorrow with a clear head.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chaz Davies then clears his head by confirming 3rd in the world, and that was a result of him coming through for 2nd position, but also of course as a result of Michael van der Mark going down. That really exacerbated that gap.
Yeah, for Chaz Davies though, really strong pace all the way through this race. Nice racecraft as well to pick his way through after struggling a little bit off the start and dropping a few places from the front row of the grid. But for Davis, really strong pace all the way through. For this man, Garrett Gerloff, though, a 3rd round in a row where we've seen him at the front. Really impressive stuff for the Texan to take on.
Garrett, another podium for you, this time in race 1 here in Estoril, and quite a fun battle here with the world champion.
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely trying to be, on my tiptoes around him. I didn't want to cause any problems or anything like that, but Man, I am honestly like a little frustrated with myself because I was just in the beginning of the race was just making stupid mistakes and riding like an idiot, and I'm not normally like that. I'm normally more consistent, so I definitely need to work on that for tomorrow. But really happy to be on the podium again for the whole Yamaha crew and the GRT team. Man, it's been a really cool last few races, and to be back on the podium, it's nice, but it's not as sweet as the first time. I'm gonna have to move up some places to make it even sweeter, you know. But big thanks to all the people that support me: Alpine Stars, HJC Helmets, the team, like I said, Yamaha, and just looking forward to getting back out there tomorrow. But just gotta give all the glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Garrett Gerloff certainly inspired here today as he fought with Jonathan Rea for third position. And they really did trade blows because Rea was not willing to give up that third place without a fight, just as we saw in Manicourt, actually, where Rea was combative in the defence of third in particular. He really wanted to hold on and ensure that he stepped up onto the podium here today. It was not to be, but he will be up on the podium anyway, confirmed as the world champion for 2020, and he will receive a special award, but not until we've heard from him after this emotional moment. A 6th world title for Jonathan Rea, secured in style from the 5th row.
Jonathan, the season started with a tumble, it ends with a title. That was absolutely extraordinary this year. 6 in a row. How does it feel?
I've no feeling right now, to be honest. It's, I can't even look back. It's been an incredible journey this season to go through. I just want to thank WorldSBK, Dorna, all the circuits, the organisers, to get racing, because in the middle of what everyone in this world's experienced this year, sport always comes second. But we managed to race, and I really miss the fans here. I miss my family and friends here, all my travelling support from back home in Northern Ireland. I really miss that. They can't be here right now, but it's for all of them and for my Kawasaki racing team for keep pushing this season. We started behind like last year, but never give up, and it's been a hell of a journey. It's so happy, so happy.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
As I said, an emotional moment for Jonathan Rea, who gives tribute to his family, who gives tribute to his team. He's a humble man, and a moment that was all about him on track. As we saw him cutting his way through, he gives all of the credit to the great team and the great workmanship around him as well to put him in a position where he can challenge for the title.
Yeah, he's the man that gets the credit for 6 world championships, but all of that team have won 6 world championships as well alongside him, and they've been able to do a great job on that side of the pit box. Of course, for Kawasaki, they've been able to win a world championship with Tom Sykes before this as well. It really has been a case of, for almost the last 10 years, they've just been the absolute peak of what you need to do in World Superbikes to be able to consistently grind out the results, consistently be able to get those championships. And Jonathan Rea, his side of the pit box with Parariba and all of his crew and all of the team that supports him, they've just been able to show once again that consistency is what really separates them.
And the great sportsmanship between Rea and Redding is also good to see. I hope we're going to see another battle between them in 2021. Will we be preparing a celebration for a 7th heaven, I wonder?
Well, I'll tell you what, you're not going to bet against it at this stage with what we've seen from Jonathan Rea. But before that, we get the opportunity to see the podium men come up now. Garrett Gerloff, we heard him say that he was a bit disappointed. He wants to be looking a little bit further up than 3rd place in the podium battles, but certainly nothing to be sniffed at by taking a WorldSBK podium again.
Well, it just goes to show what Toprak can do from pole position. First time in his career he's had a pole. He roars away to the victory, not able to secure the fastest lap as well. That goes to Michael van der Mark. But it's Toprak Razgatlioglu who gets up onto the top step of the podium. His 2nd victory of the campaign, his first since race 1 of the Australian round. Goodness me, that seems like a different year, doesn't it? The Australian round before the big old break and the rest of the European season. It's the 4th victory of Toprak's career and the 7th podium of his campaign. And as we said previously, the first 6 all came in the opening 3 rounds. So very much a return to form, and no doubt Toprak can now head into the winter in confident mood after that display. Chaz Davies, happy enough to receive a trophy for 2nd position. I'm sure he would have dearly liked to get off to a better start and really take the fight to Toprak, because he had the pace to match him in the 2nd half of the race. He just left himself with too much work to do, pushed aside on the opening couple of laps from 4th on the grid, and no doubt he'll be pushing hard to challenge for a race victory here tomorrow. He was talking about the BS, the battles and superbikes, I think, that he's undergone over the last couple of weeks. But certainly he's able to put all of that behind him and take a podium position that he will be grateful for as well. So it's time to hear the national anthem, and for the 4th time for Toprak Razgatlioglu, he's a race winner in WorldSBK. And the national anthem of our winning manufacturer. Well, we said that the Yamahas looked on form throughout Friday. They have taken a 1-3 here today, and Michael van der Mark no doubt would have been up there and challenging as well. Instead, he goes down, and that confirms the bronze medal for Chaz Davies as well. So Davies will take 3rd position in the series standings for 2020. It's Jonathan Rea on top, of course, and that is also now confirmed, as Toprak Razgatlioglu is victorious in race 1 of the Pirelli Estoril round. What about more of the same tomorrow?
Yeah, well, the Yamaha's clearly very strong here this weekend. You can see Toprak, Garrett Gerloff on the podium. Van der Mark with a fastest lap. He was battling for a podium as well. So clearly the Yamaha's working well, and you'll certainly expect them to be able to maintain that form tomorrow. The Super Pole race is going to be really interesting. From the 5th row of the grid, what can Jonathan Rea do to be able to try and give himself a good grid position for race 2? For Scott Redding from the back of the field, can he be really aggressive and try and get himself through into those top 5-6 positions to give us a real grandstand battle in race 2, the final race of the 2020 season?
I wonder if tomorrow we'll see anyone chance their arm with the Super Pole race tyre in the feature length race to try and improve their stock and improve their chances, and whether that shakes up the order a little bit.
I think we'll definitely see people take that gamble, because the pace and the consistency all the way through this race was very good. So it does show that maybe the track's not wearing the tyre as much. Maybe there's just good grip out there, and certainly it's going to be an opportunity for riders to try that X tyre.
So our race podium is complete. It's Razgatlioglu, it's Davies, and it is Gerloff. Our top 3 here today. Another great performance from Garrett Gerloff as well. Give him his fair share of credit. He wanted a 2nd position finish, couldn't quite get it. But it's over to Jonathan Rea, the man of the hour, our 2020 world champion. It was confirmed long before he took the checkered flag there in 4th position. It was confirmed once Scott Redding pulled off at the side of the track, and no doubt that notification will have reached Jonathan Rea via his pit board, but he continued to slug it out to try and get on the podium. He is going to get on the podium. It's only 4th position here today, but he's number 1 once again. Jonathan Rea is your 2020 world champion. One thing we're missing, as Ray said, is the spectators, the fans here in Estoril. But I know that everyone will be watching back home in Northern Ireland, in Great Britain and beyond, to celebrate and pay tribute to Jonathan Rea for his fantastic 6th world title. The first time we've ever been in this position in World Superbikes, and with every passing season, it's new records for Jonathan Rea. The award of the special trophy, WorldSBK World Champion, Jonathan Rea. Once again, he's done it in style, and as we've said previously, he's never afraid to cut his way through the field, is he? And on this occasion, it is going to be a moment to savour and a photograph opportunity for the record books as well. As you can see from the pit board, 2020 World SBK champion Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, and another season where we've seen just the complete performance of Jonathan Rea all the way through this campaign. We've been able to see just how good a rider he is. We've been able to see that he's now the absolute complete package. What he's been able to do in Super Pole sessions, what he's been able to do all the way through the season. He's really been very impressive, and you can see that the biggest issue he's had really was just trying to get that bottle of Prosecco open.
So out of the 22 races so far, it's been 11 wins for Jonathan Rea. It's been 17 podiums. He continues to amass the points and the stats. He is your 2020 World Champion. Welcome to World SBK in 2020. Look into the inside of Rea diving down the inside for the block pass. Jonathan Rea is hot away. He gets the whole shot. It's Jonathan Rea for the 92nd race victory of his career. It's Jonathan Rea who takes the lead of the World Championship. Oh, that's a stunning manoeuvre from Jonathan Rea. All of those different celebrations that we all remember from down the years. The first will obviously always be the sweetest. 4 of a kind, 5-star, and the 6 rings of 2020. Jonathan Rea is confirmed as your Superbike World Champion, and with 2 races to spare. Perhaps not as early as in past seasons, a shortened calendar, of course, in 2020. Toprak Razgatlioglu wins race 1 of the Pirelli Estoril round, ahead of Chaz Davies back to the podium in 2nd, and Garrett Gerloff the 2nd podium of his career in 3rd. Jonathan Rea with 4th position has done comfortably enough to take the world title. Scott Redding, of course, retiring with a mechanical failure, and that gives Eric Granado a World Championship point on his debut. Retirements, as you can see, Michael van der Mark going down, Federico Caricasulo going down at turn 7 as well. And here's how things stack up in the Riders' Championship. Razgatlioglu makes a place on lows, having taken the race victory here today. Leon Haslam gains in points and confidence after Alvaro Bautista goes down. So Bautista slips to 10th overall and behind his teammate in the point standings. Xavi Forres, with one of his best performances of the season, gains 2. Federico Caricasulo losing out as a result of his spill. Sylvain Barrier unfortunately ruled out injured, and Jonas Folger picks up points in his 4th World SBK race. A full look through the order. 29 different riders have now scored championship points in 2020. Independent Riders' Championship. Loris Baz behind Michael Ruben Rinaldi. It's Garrett Gerloff who was the top independent rider in race 1. Xavi Forres, as I said, also with a decent performance for him, matching his previous best result of this 2020 campaign. Forres, 3rd to 8th place finish of the season. In the Teams Championship, it's KRT by 19 points. There's still not much in it. This one's going to go down to the wire. Aruba IT Racing Ducati benefiting from the points of Chaz Davies here today. They could have done with Scott Redding up towards the top of the field as well. Independent Teams Championship. Team Go 11 leading it by 30. GRT above Tenkate Yamaha, thanks to the efforts of Garrett Gerloff. A shame for them that Federico Caricasulo didn't score. Manufacturers Championship, 19 points in it. Similar story to what we see in the Teams Championship. Nothing to choose between Kawasaki and Ducati. Yamaha having a good weekend here in Estoril after a few less than inspiring performances. Hyundai-inspired rider. Once again, it's Chaz Davies. He's only gained 2 positions here today. What a weak performance, eh? 4th position on the grid. He takes 2nd place. And the Hyundai-inspired award is within grasp. Fine entertainment once again on a day that Jonathan Rea is crowned as world champion. That's all from Superbikes on Saturday here in Estoril. Day 2 of the action here in Portugal features the final 2 races of our 24 race programme for 2020 and the last chance to impress before the winter break. Join us again